So just a quick BookTubeAthon update before I move on to my review of Poseidon. Day 1's over. I managed to get through one book, the book with blue on its cover. For that, I read Of Poseidon by Anna Banks. And I was really pleased with myself that I was able to get through this in the first day because it's a little bit longer than some of the books I'm reading for BookTubeAthon. It was, I think, 324 pages or something like that. So I was really pleased that I was able to get through this in one afternoon. Tomorrow I will be reading Looking for Alaska by John Green. This is for the book written by an author whose last name shares the same first letter as your last name. It's a bit shorter than Of Poseidon, so I should be able to get through it all in one day. So for Of Poseidon, I found overall it was pretty good. I give it about a 3.5 to 4 stars. I found that there were a lot of things I liked, and there were a lot of things I didn't like. Starting with things that I didn't like, I found that the plot was very frustrating for me. I found the first 75 pages, I just could not get through them. It took me ages to get through the first little bit of the book, just because I found it dragged, and I found that the last little chunk of the book, until the last, 25 pages or so, I found that I'm expecting a climax, but I'm not really getting one. And I found that overall, there were a lot of times where I was kind of confused as to what the plot was exactly supposed to be. That there was stuff they're trying to, it was this really weird mixture of stuff. I don't know. But I found I was often a little bit confused as to what the book was trying to do. So I found that the plot was a little bit confusing to me at times. I also found the romance kind of frustrating, that not in the sense that I couldn't see them. To me, Emma and Galen definitely worked as a couple. They made sense. At times I felt like it was a little bit rushed, we meet each other, oh my gosh, you're so amazing and wonderful. So I found that there were definitely times where I was kind of this feels a bit rushed, but I also found that there were times when I just wasn't as interested in their story and their romance as I should have been, because right now, the plot's really focused on it, and I'm just kind of going not interested in it at this moment in time. And so I found that getting through those scenes was really hard for me. And especially towards the end when they kind of have the huge breakup stuff, that I felt not that Emma was focusing on the wrong parts of it, but I felt like she felt betrayed, and I liked that she felt betrayed. But there were bits and pieces of it that I felt like she was focusing not on the wrong part, because I think that her being upset and feeling betrayed by Galen was good, but I felt like she maybe didn't pay enough attention to the fact that she was supposed to be betrothed, I guess, mated, to his brother Grom, right? And I felt like she didn't really actually realize, oh, this other person I'm supposed to be mated with. And she took it a little bit more as you had an ulterior motive. And while that was true, I felt like the whole Grom stuff was skimmed over a little bit. So I found that a little bit frustrating. So the romance, I liked it, but at the same time, I felt like it was sometimes too focused on. So, I don't know, but I definitely liked it more than other romances that kind of, when there's a fantasy or adventure story, I find sometimes the romance takes over, and I don't necessarily always like it, because I feel like there should be more focus on the world as it's on its own. That being said, I felt like the string were built up and really interesting. But I also feel like there was stuff there that they didn't actually go into, that, there was a history to the Serena, but it was really skimmed over, and I felt like I'm hoping that in later books we find out a little bit more about the Serena, because I felt like stuff like, for example, all of the things that Emma learns about the Serena, such as they have laws, they have a government, they have blank, it's kind of just mentioned that Galen explains that to her. But we, the reader, never actually get an explanation of that. We get explanations of some stuff like Rhaena and Galen are royalty, stuff like the marriages between the two kingdoms, or matings between the two kingdoms, sorry. But stuff like general laws and whatnot weren't really as explained, and so I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of that. And I'm also hoping that they mention things like crossing territories and things that only trackers can do, but they never actually explained where the territories were actually set up. That being said, I did like the concept, and I found them to be really interesting, and I'm just hoping that we get a little bit more of them in more like the later books to come. However, I did also like a lot of stuff about it. For example, I love the fact that Emma was a major history buff. A lot of that is the fact that I'm a major history buff as well, and I find that there's often not enough characters that are really interested in history, and where it's actually perceived as something that's good to be interested in, that a lot of times characters are kind of like, this is boring. And I really liked that there was a character who shared one of my interests that's not necessarily as common to see in a character. I really liked how all of the different characters were developed. Like, I really, really loved Traff. I thought that him being, described as 3/4 of an idiot I found it really funny, but I like seeing characters that are a little bit stupid, but also a little bit smarter than you as well. That, he could read people and he understood what was going on sometimes, even when the other characters didn't necessarily realize it themselves. That being said, I had a lot of problems towards the beginning, like when you first learn about the fact that he and Rhaena have already been mated. I found that made me really uncomfortable, because I like that you have Emma being really upset on Rhaena's behalf that this was done without her consent, but I also think it would have been really interesting to explore a little, and I was hoping this would be done, but to have it be explored a little bit more as to what actually happened there. Was this a common thing that occurred with the royalty? Was this something that might have happened to Galen as well if a girl had expressed interest in him? How much of it was Traff saying, hey, I really want to be mated to her, and how much of it was that they felt that Rhaena has been on her own and someone actually has shown interest in her and she's a royalty, so she should be mated with someone, and so let's just put her with this guy who's shown interest in her. And I feel like that could have been explored a lot more, and I had a lot more hopes that they would explore it a little bit more before getting them together. And I feel like now they won't really go into that because of the fact that they have the two of them together. The other thing I think they could have done with that was explore the differences, perhaps in status, that female versus male Serena have. And as always, do they have the concept of gender? Without anything with fantasy creatures and such, I'm always hoping for some creature to be like, we don't understand why you are dividing up yourselves. We don't have concept of gender, we just are. But I understand that probably won't happen anytime soon. Rhaena I found was really interesting as a character. I really liked her. I thought that I liked that they had her being a mixture of, I'm tough and I can look after myself, but I also really like doing my nails. I like doing my makeup. And so I thought that, like, I really liked her. I liked that she was tough, but also not completely going feminine stuff is not tough. That she was just kind of like, I can have both. I really liked Rachel. I like the stuff where I like that there's a lot of stuff with her being part of the mafia. I am hoping that's explored a little bit more because nurturing character from the mafia, heck yeah. And so I'm hoping that you get to see more of her, maybe her history, I guess you would say, in later books. I really like both Emma and Galen. I'm doing them both together because I tend to, talk about main characters together. But I like that they were both unique characters. One thing I found frustrating was how the points of view were handled between them. Just that Emma's point of view was written with I, and Galen's point of view was written in third person. I found that really weird and hard to get used to, but I also found them hard to warm up to just because I felt like sometimes they were just had that sort of main character stupidity, but ultimately I did really like them, but definitely took me a little while to warm up to them. Paka I found was a really interesting character, and I cannot wait to see her explored more. I'm really happy she's going to be kind of a main part of the main plot, hopefully, or it seems like she will be, just because I thought the idea of them manipulating Grom into saying, yeah, I'll accept this marriage because she seems to have the gift, and faking the gift, I thought that was really cool, and I liked how Reyna and Galen were able to pick up on it because of the time they spent in the human world. I thought Grom was really interesting. I like that you have him still yearning over Nalia, and I like that you had, like, it was very believable and realistic, but I also like that you have him being willing to move on and marry someone else for the good of his kingdom. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him more, and I'm hoping that they don't have him just kind of saying, you guys are stupid, shut up, because I hate when older siblings are portrayed as that. The ending, it's kind of hard to explain, but I really didn't like the ending because I found that it was predictable. Like, I had seen it coming from really early on that I didn't find it to be something that I was going, wow, this is such a surprise. I was just kind of going, yeah, I figured that out from when you first meet her, that, she's a Serena. So I also found the stuff where they're going, oh, clearly her dad was, half-breed. I found that really frustrating because they're basing it off things like he likes seafood. And it's just like, you have someone who looks like a literal Serena, and you already know that Emma's half-breed. Why are you not assuming that, her mother's a Serena? And so I found that really frustrating because it wasn't even that I had guessed it 50 pages before, I had guessed it like hundreds of pages beforehand. And so I found the ending, it was treated like it was this big reveal with, it being the last sentence, but I was just kind of like, is not a big reveal. And so I felt like it was all built up towards this climax without it actually being built up to a climax, and the climax wasn't there. And so I found that it kind of was a bit of a flat book. That being said, I enjoyed it. I'm going to see if I can find the rest of the books and read through the rest of the series. It's a good series by the sounds of it. But I found that at least of Poseidon, I was going, not really exciting, but an enjoyable read. It's just a little bit more flat than other books are. So, yeah, tomorrow looking for Alaska. Let's see how that goes.